Hello everyone. I truly wish you all good health and peace in life. Somewhere beyond the night, the dawn is still waiting. But will love wait too? After all the pain, the silence, and the choices that tore us apart, can CEO Toan and I rewrite our fate? Sometimes, love isn't about holding on, it's about finding our way back when everything seems lost. This is the story of whether hearts meant to be can truly find each other again.
The night was long, cold, and cruel, a reflection of the pain buried deep in their hearts. But even in the deepest darkness, dawn waits patiently. So does love. Tu Diem stood alone by the window of a small, quiet room, watching the pale morning light slowly seep in. Her body was weak, her soul even more fragile, but her eyes still held a quiet strength. She had run for so long, from a past filled with betrayal, from a family who once sold her like a debt, and now from a love that felt too good to be true. Yet despite all that, she still whispered his name in her sleep. She still remembered his warmth, the way he stood up for her when no one else did. Somewhere far across the city, Toan sat in his office, staring at an untouched cup of coffee. The power, the wealth, none of it mattered anymore. All he could think of was the girl who saved his life, who walked away before he could give her the world. Regret haunted every corner of his heart. He had searched for her endlessly, even when everyone told him to move on. He couldn't, because when she left, she took his heart with her. They were two souls broken by fate, but bound by something stronger, love born not in luxury, but in hardship, in cold nights beside a fire in a forgotten house, in shared hunger, in survival. The world never made it easy for them. Her family tried to drag her back into misery. His world tried to keep him inside golden cages. But love doesn't ask for permission. It simply waits, like dawn, waiting for night to end. And now, the wait was almost over. Toan received a call. A stranger had seen someone like her selling fruits at the edge of a remote town. Without hesitation, he left everything and went. And there she was, thin, tired, but still beautiful, still her. She looked up and froze. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His eyes told her everything. The pain, the longing, the apology, and the promise, slowly, as if afraid it was all a dream. She walked toward him. The silence between them was heavy, but it wasn't empty. It was full of everything they never got to say. "I never stopped looking for you," he said, "and I never stopped dreaming about you," she whispered. They didn't need more words. Love had been through the storm, and now the sky was clearing. Fate tried to tear them apart. Life tried to drown them. But love, quiet and unwavering, had survived. Dawn had come, and this time, it was their turn to rise with it together. Toan stood in the garden of the new house, where the morning dew still clung to the leaves. His eyes were tired, not from lack of sleep, but from the burden of not knowing where she was. Every shadow, every breeze seemed to whisper her name, Tu Diem. She had vanished again, like mist after rain. He replayed her last words in his mind. "I don't deserve this peace. I don't deserve you." And then she disappeared without a trace. The house, once filled with hope, now echoed only with silence. But Toan refused to believe that fate would win. He had crossed fire and memory lost to stand beside her once. He would do it again. Meanwhile, Tu Diem sat quietly in a small village on the edge of the forest, sewing fabric for a local tailor in exchange for a roof and the simple meals a day. She had chosen to disappear, not because she didn't love him, but because she loved him too much to be a burden. Yet no matter how far she ran, memories of his kindness followed. The way he held her hand in the hospital, the warmth in his voice when he asked her to stay, the silent tears he wiped from her eyes. Her heart ached with the weight of separation. One stormy evening, while Toan was at the construction site, he received a call. A farmer had found a woman matching to Diem's description helping in a neighboring town. Without hesitation, he dropped everything and drove through the night. The rain was fierce, but not fiercer than his will. When he finally found her, she was sitting under a tree, drenched, barefoot, holding a small cloth bag. Her eyes widened in disbelief when she saw him. He walked slowly toward her. No words, just the sound of rain between them. Then he knelt down in front of her. "I don't need the world to understand us," he said, voice trembling. "I just need you to come home." Tu Diem's lips quivered. Her tears mixed with the rain. All the walls she had built began to crumble. "But what if they try to take me again? What if your family?" Toan took her hands gently. "This time, we decide. No one else. I'll fight whatever comes. Just don't leave me again." The dawn was breaking behind them. Soft light filtered through the clouds, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. For the first time in a long while, Tu Diem looked up and saw the sun, not just in the sky, but in his eyes. She nodded. And in that moment, as the night finally gave way to morning, they chose love, not as an escape, but as a promise. The days passed slowly, like autumn leaves drifting on a restless wind. Diem stayed hidden in a quiet village on the edge of the mountains. Her heart caught between fear and longing. Every morning, she woke with the ache of missing Toan, his warmth, his voice, the way he had looked at her like she was the only light left in his world. She had thought leaving would protect him, that staying away was the only way to free him from the chaos of her past. But instead, her absence seemed to carve a deeper wound in both their lives. Toan, on the other hand, had refused to give up. His love for Diem was not a fleeting emotion, it was rooted in the pain they had endured together, in the hope they had kindled in the darkest moments. His world without her felt hollow. Every corner of his new house echoed with her name. Every time he looked at the sky, he wondered if somewhere she was looking at it too. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was still dark when he received the call from an old woman in a nearby village, who had once bought fruit from a kind girl with sad eyes and trembling hands. She had recognized Diem from the photo Toan had left in every town, every market, every corner of the region. "She's alive," the woman whispered, "and I think she's waiting for you." Toan didn't wait for dawn. He got into his car and drove through the night, headlights piercing through fog and memory. When he arrived, the sky was just beginning to lighten, the first blush of dawn staining the mountains gold. And there she was, standing at the edge of a small field, barefoot, holding a basket of herbs. Her hair was longer, her face thinner, but those eyes still held the same sadness, the same unspoken love. "Diem," he breathed. Stepping closer, she froze. Her eyes met his for a moment. "The world stopped. You came," she whispered. "I never stopped looking." Tears welled up in her eyes, and before she could say anything else, he was there wrapping her in the embrace they had both dreamed of every night. "I was afraid," she said against his shoulder, "afraid I'd ruin your life." "You are my life," he said, "and I will fight fate itself if that's what it takes to have you by my side." As the sun rose, warm and full of promise, they stood together, no longer running, no longer lost. Dawn had waited, And now, so had love. In life, love is never just a beautiful feeling, it is often a battlefield of choices, courage, and sacrifices. Through the emotional journey of Toan and Tu Diem, we are reminded that love is not always welcomed, not always supported, and not always easy to keep. But the real question is, what are we willing to fight for when everything seems to fall apart? Tu Diem was not just a girl with a painful past, she was a symbol of resilience. She had been abandoned, judged, and nearly sold by her own family. Yet she never stopped believing in kindness. She chose to protect the man who was once a stranger, CEO Toan, because her heart still held hope. Even when she felt unworthy of love, she gave it freely. Toan, on the other hand, had everything a man could want: status, wealth, influence, but he lacked peace. Meeting Tu Diem changed him. She didn't see him as a CEO but as a human in need. When she disappeared, he didn't just search for her to repay a debt. He searched because he finally knew what truly mattered in life. A love that saw through the scars. A connection that went beyond names and titles. Their story teaches us that love is not about perfection. It's about choosing someone over and over. Despite the storms, Toan stood up to his family, risked his reputation, and opened his heart because Tu Diem was worth it. Tu Diem risked her safety and comfort to protect his life. Together, they showed that true love demands courage. The lesson here is clear. Don't let fear, pride, or pressure take away the person who makes your soul feel safe. Sometimes, society will question your choices. Sometimes, your family may not understand. But at the end of the day, it is your heart that must live with the consequences of not fighting for someone who means the world to you. So if you ever find a love that makes you stronger, kinder, and more human, hold on, protect it. Because in a world full of noise and judgment, that kind of love is rare, and it might be the very thing that saves you.